welcome everyone to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And we are just 100 days out from midterm elections. And as you well know, there are many consequential states in our union that we absolutely must win due to them taking away rights and banning books and talking about CRT and all of these ridiculous things that we have to overcome. So, tonight, we have two ladies from one of those consequential states, the state of Texas. And we need to win the state of Texas due to all of the damage that Governor Abbott has done and Ted Cruz and all the other minions in the GOP in that state. So I want to introduce you to, first of all, we have both ladies are running from the same county, which is Williamson County. The overall area is the area of Austin, Texas. Okay, and so we have one of our guests here in the studio. So far, it is Tiffany Harrison. Hey, Tiffany.
Hello. Hi, Pam. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let me introduce you first. Okay. All right. Tiffany is a school board candidate for the Round Rock Independent School District Place 6. Tiffany has attended and graduated from the school district that she is campaigning to win, and she's going to do that. She's taught there for the past 8 years and is a 2-time awardee as Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tiffany is the founder of the Round Rock High School Equity, Diversity, and Inclusivity Committee. She wants to ensure an equitable education for all students. So that is, you've got a lot on your plate. And listen, I know that one of the early shows that I did was on CRT. And so, you know, there's all of these buzzwords going on in education now that has really politicized school board candidates. And we have to be so careful that we get the right people in office so that our students can learn a well-rounded history, a true history, and, actual facts. So, Tiffany, tell me what made you run for school board?
Absolutely. So this is actually my second term. So I was elected in 2020, straight out of the classroom. And I'm now the vice president of the school board, and I'm running to maintain my seat for another 4 years.
Years?
Yes, it's a 4-year term. Absolutely. And I care deeply about equity as a classroom teacher and making sure that every student had what they needed to succeed in the classroom and in life. And I was facing some barriers in my district at that time, and really working to appeal to school board members to implement some measures that would uplift marginalized students, ultimately uplifting each and every student. And I had a moment where I thought, I'm doing double duty. I'm spending my time in the classroom, working with students, which I loved teaching. It was amazing. But then I was spending so much time pleading with people to acknowledge the humanity of our students. And so I decided, instead of doing both, I could just run. School board is nonpartisan in my district, and it's also at large. So, you know, there's over 130,000 eligible voters that we are trying to get to vote for us so that we can represent our community and support our students.
When it says place 6, I'm familiar with precincts and things like that. So define that for me. What does that mean?
So all districts are at large. The reason why we have place numbers in Round Rock ISD is simply to know who's up again, because it's 4-year terms and it rotates. So every 2 years, new people are up. We are a 7-member school board. So this election, we have 4 seats open. in the regular election, in the regular midterm election. But then one of my colleagues vacated his seat early, which means we have a special election to fulfill a 2-year seat, which is how I got on the board. So essentially, we have 5 of 7 seats open, which is deeply concerning in terms of some of the extremism that we're seeing and allowing those extreme people to get elected. It would be very detrimental to our school system.
I see. We've got a few Texans in the chat. Alicia Baker Rogers says, "Go Texas." And Martin Pratt says, "Go Texas." Listen, you guys, before I bring up Renee is with us now. If you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, and or Facebook, please hit a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube in particular, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd appreciate that so much. And I have dropped a link in the chat where it welcomes you, so that if you have questions or comments, you guys can participate in the show directly. All right, so let me bring up Renee Schalk. Let me bring up Renee. There she is. Hey, Renee.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. Let me introduce you. Okay, so hold on one second. So Renee Schalk's background as a caseworker for the Texas Child Protective Services. And let me tell you, I love Renee. I love all social workers. Got to say that. So as Justice of the Peace, she will deal with many family and juvenile issues. Her life experiences and training make her a very worthy candidate for the position. So, Renee, let me ask you now, I've read your bio and I got exhausted. I really did. I was like, what in the world? She has raised children, she has adult children, and now she has triplets. And I'm trying to think, Renee, what on earth made you decide to run for office?
Well, actually, there were a couple of reasons. The number one reason was 2016 when Hillary lost. I was devastated, like many other people across the country, because we just couldn't believe who we were going to have in the White House. That was the first step. That got me wanting to volunteer for several campaigns. I volunteered for Beto's senatorial campaign.
Yes.
And then I took a little break and I had my triplets and ran a business with my husband and decided that, okay, the triplets are a little bit older now. I need to do a little bit more. So then I worked with Tiffany on a U.S. congressional campaign for a candidate here in Texas. And so that's how we got to know each other. And that's how I got more involved. And I was the volunteer coordinator for that campaign.
Awesome.
And then, we're like, well, pandemic hit. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I can't be behind the scenes anymore. I got to go out front. And what I realized too along the way is, and although I have had years of being involved in political situations, I decided that our ancestors died so that I can have this opportunity to have children, to have a decent life. And I feel like I need to do something for my descendants. If I don't get out there and do something politically to change this landscape, my children and my children's children and my friends' children and everybody else and all the descendants that come after me won't have anything to start with. And I just can't do that. I can't let that happen.
That's right. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Can you know what? I had never heard of the Justice of the Peace position before. So educate us all on what exactly does that position entail?
Okay, Texas is a little bit different from other states.
Yes, it is.
And it's also a little bit different from county to county in Texas, because us Texans, we have to do everything big and different. So Texas of the Peace in Williamson County, the things that we're responsible for is number one, which is not anyone's favorite job, is evictions. And we have to follow state law for that. So we have to work within the state law in order to handle eviction cases. We also handle truancy, which a lot of people don't know. And so we deal with children and families whose children are not meeting the expectations of the school system. And that means showing up and doing the work. We also deal with which is different from county to county and also different from the Travis County, which is next door to us, is we do death notifications. And we should really have, yes, we have to go to scenes and identify persons that have passed on and notify families.
Are you serious?
I am serious as a heart attack. Now, that should be a coroner's position.
Right.
However, Williamson County decided that they're not going to pay a coroner, even though Williamson County has grown leaps and bounds. And because people are moving from Travis County, moving to Williamson County because it's a little bit less expensive. Not that much anymore right now. But so we're getting all this influx of people from California, from all over the place. We should really have 2 coroners, but we don't even have 1. So that might be something, once elected, I can champion for, that we have at least a coroner. But there are 4 JPs in Williamson County, and each JP has to take a week to go out to scenes and identify bodies and notify families. So yes, so that's another one. We also have to deal with traffic and civil and small claims, traffic and small claims, which is not too bad, but we still have to work with the cases that come before the court that have to do with that. Now, the fun part of the job, which is optional, is performing weddings, which is something that I will do. However, it's an optional part of the position. Matter of fact, there's a JP who decided that she didn't want to perform same-sex marriages, so she wasn't performing any marriages. And the thing is, if you decide to perform marriages, you have to perform marriages for everyone because you're working for your constituents. And so that has become an optional part. But that's pretty much in a capsule what justice of the peace do here in Williamson County, Texas.
Wow. I'm blown away. That's the one thing that I love about this podcast. I've learned so much from so many people because it's one state, this state, another city, another municipality. It's really interesting. So Katie Kizzer says, "Yay, Tiffanie and Renee."
Thank you, Katie.
And let's see, someone else. Oh, someone. Nino. I need to put Mary.
Patel.
Oh, okay. They just sent a heart. And Alicia Baker Rogers, I reside in Williamson County and was not aware there is not a coroner, because Alicia is a nurse. She you know what, and since she's in your area, hopefully she will be helping you guys on some campaign stuff. Hopefully she can pitch in. She's a busy retiree. She's really busy. Listen, guys, if you're in on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, please hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. So, Tiffanie, let's get back to you. I did not, you know what? I have to confess, when I looked at your information, I didn't realize that you were the vice president of the school board. What has been your biggest challenge so far in doing that?
I think that if you ask almost any school board member across the U.S., we'd say similar things. COVID, people don't realize we're going into our 4th COVID school year. I actually was a high school marketing teacher when COVID first hit in March of 2020. So technically that was the first. And now we're going into the 4th. And there's a sense of urgency to get back to normal. But what I know about normal as an educator is that normal really still wasn't working for every student. And we were very complicit in those inequitable outcomes. And COVID has caused a lot of tension. Some of the biggest arguments and fights that we've had here in Texas and in my school district have been over masks and mask mandates. When really at that time, all we were working to do was to keep schools open and accessible to all students, especially our medically fragile, students living in multi-generational households.
Yes.
So that has been one of the greatest challenges. And that was also really spurred by some extremism. As I've said, school board is nonpartisan, and I think it should be that way because children are not red or blue. We should have a vested interest in each and every one of our students and, an investment in their bright futures and outcomes. But we've seen some very partisan extremism, super far right GOP. And
Yes.
so that's been deeply concerning, especially as we see things like book banning, as we see things like CRT, which when people talk about that, I always want to ask them, do you know what CRT is? Can you explain CRT to me and point out how it's being taught to your children?
Yes.
So that's been difficult. It's been challenging.
Right. We've got some more love in the chat from Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. So really and truly, now I am coming to you from North Carolina. And I think our only saving grace here in North Carolina is that we do have a Democratic governor who insisted on the mask, who followed all the CDC guidelines and, all of that type of thing. And unfortunately, during a midterm election, for the first time in 100 years, our state legislator turned to the whole GOP in control, and it has been disastrous. And so, fortunately, through some other elections, we've been getting more Democrats in office. So, to control some things like passing a budget so that people can get raises who work for the state of North Carolina, namely the teachers who hadn't had one in 7 years, 8 years. I mean, ridiculous things like that. So we know, again, like I opened the show, is that this is a consequential election. And midterms typically don't fare well for us. And they're still talking the same stuff that, oh, you guys are going to get slaughtered or whatever. I fully believe that every elected official is important. It does not matter if you are city, state, whatever. You are important. So tell me, what are some of your messaging that you're doing, Renee, and then I'll ask you the same question, Tiffany.
Okay, so right now, because of pandemic and because of COVID, to be honest, and a mom of triplets who just got vaccinated because the under 5 vaccine was not available to them until a month ago. So I am mostly doing social media. I am also calling friends, family, colleagues, constituents, and making sure that they understand that there is an election coming up in November, that they should actually go to my website, which is www.renee4jp3.com, and they should go there and take a look and find out who I am. And then if they want to reach out to me, I gladly will talk with you. I will text you, whatever form of communications you want. I would do that in order for you to know a little bit more about myself. Also, I'm doing a official kickoff campaign in September, the end of September. So I'm hoping to get a whole bunch of folks out, multicultural people, constituents coming out to celebrate with music and food and just having a good time to get to know each other and introducing different venues and different folks that may not mingle within the Williamson Democratic Party or the Democratic Party here in Texas. And so just bring them out to have a good old time. So those are the things that I'm doing to try to put together a campaign. Tiffany and I will work together to try to do some block walking because we have some overlapping constituents in our precincts. And so we'll do some block walking together. I'm part of a coordinated campaign for the Williamson Democratic Party, which is amazing. So that means that the top of the ticket, as you know, is Beto O'Rourke. And when he's doing things and other candidates are doing things, John Busey, James Tallarico, just to name a few people, and everybody out in Texas knows who these people are.
I pay attention to national politics. What are you doing to encourage people, Renee, and I'll keep on you and then I'll go back to Tiffany, to encourage people to vote the entire ballot, to vote from top to bottom.
And let me tell you, my tagline is every time I give a speech and every time I talk to someone, I say, vote Renee before you walk away. So that means you go all the way down ballot till you get Renee. And Tiffany is right there with me. So Tiffany, we all gonna get all the way down ballot. So And that's got to be the push. You got to vote all the way down ballot. And honestly, if I could get to talk to more folks, what I would say is, why would you take your time to go out there, risk your life with COVID to deal with all these people to make a vote and then vote for one person? Just vote for the top of the ticket.
Right.
That absolutely makes no sense to me.
It
so
makes no
if you're
sense.
if you're going to do it, vote all the way down. Vote every Democrat that you can.
Yes.
And even if you don't know much about them, they've got to be a little bit better than that Republican that's up there, the way things are going nowadays. That's all I got for you.
Right. I want to give another plug to you guys before I go on to Tiffany, because about voting local. All elections are local, period. Because that case that was just one where the Black family got their land back, that coastal, that beach land back, it was a county commissioner that helped punt that ball over the fence to make that happen. That was a locally elected person. So a lot of times people, I don't care if it's the dog catcher, the solid waste person. Solid waste is very important. Environmental issues that Black and brown people too often have issues with. We need to pay attention to every position. Utilities, I think you guys in Texas got to really get that straight. I'm sorry.
Ooh, yes. All right, now don't talk about us too bad.
We have a lot of work to do in the state of Texas, period. Period. So Tiffany, I know you keep saying that you guys are nonpartisan, but we well know what the deal is. How are you handling that?
Well, for one, I think that my track record speaks for itself of being an excellent educator for 8.5 years. And before that, I taught dance in our community. And I was teaching all children, right? Children aren't red or blue. So I was teaching and relating to and providing strong education for all children. And that's really my heart moving forward as a school board member. What a lot of people don't realize is that about 40% of our district is actually in Travis County. So we're Williamson County and Travis County, Round Rock and Austin, a little bit of Cedar Park. And what I know about this community in this area is that when you think about votes and when you think about partisanship, we are purple, right?
Yeah.
We went Beto, we are purple. And so I think that this is a loving community. I think that this is a community that wants access to opportunity for each and every child. I've watched how our community banded together in the midst of a tornado just a few months ago that once again hit, some of the most heavily impacted and marginalized areas, and how people came together to support that community. And I know that that's what our community wants to see in education. We have an excellent and strong track record of public education, but what I want people to know that they may not realize is that we're at a turning point. We're at a precipice where there are people that are actively working to defund and disrupt public education. Yes. And this community is not for that. And I know that because some of those people that are my colleagues that are on the board causing such disruption and working with community members to cause disruption ran as though they were more progressive than they really were. So
and they were they flipped the switch on you.
And they switched. So they were giving our community what our community wanted, which was equity, diversity, inclusion, uplifting all students, giving students access to opportunity. And then switched. And so I have to remember that as I'm running myself. And I think that more people than ever are paying attention to public education, and everyone should have a vested interest, because not only is this our future, Alicia is a nurse and she's retired, and we need people to take over what she's doing. We know this. We know that children are our future. People need to realize that your school board sets 85% of your tax rate too. So if you don't care about children, I know that you care about your mortgage, rent. I like to think that people are passionate about school board because they care about children in our community, though.
Yeah. I would think that if they cared more about it, your governor wouldn't have everybody open carry without having to have go through the background checks and all that type of thing. Don't get me started, because I can go on Abbott. Listen, you guys who are in the chat on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing. The same if you're listening on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Please hit the thumbs up. Alicia asked for Renee and Tiffany your contact information in the chat, and I think I'd have to do that for you. I don't know if can you guys have access to the chat? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't.
We have access to a private chat, but not the
yeah. Okay, so Renee's information. Renee, what do you want to put, Schalk? What information do you want? How people can reach you?
They can contact me via my website, which is Renee, www.renee, which is RENEE, for FOR JP for Justice of the Peace, number 3.com.
Okay.
So that's Renee4JP3.com.
Right. And then, okay. And Tiffany, how do you want people to reach you?
Yes, my website information is www.tiffanie, TIFFAN.
Okay. www.tiffanie,
the number 4, RRISD.com. And Tiffany for RRISD is all my social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So you can find me using that same convention everywhere. And like Renee, I will be having my launch on Tuesday. We'll be having a virtual event to make it accessible. I know that, it's August. So parents are trying to get their students ready for school. There's a lot going on. And I'll be joined by Representatives James Talrico and John Busey to kick that off, and just want to spend some time with the community, hear what the community is looking for, and share what I have to offer as well.
Tina says educators are most certainly paying attention. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Amazing, Tina. I think educators are going to make all the difference when we're thinking about, especially this governor's race. There's been so many barriers, especially with school boards, when we're talking about budget, when we're talking about raises, when we're talking about recapture. In a district like Round Rock ISD, we send a significant amount of money back to the state of Texas.
Why?
The original intent of recapture was for equity, right? It was to help districts with low amounts of property tax income exist, right? It's kind of a Robin Hood. Take wealthier districts, give to the poor districts. I have no issue with that. However, that's not really what's happening. That recapture, and in Round Rock ISD, it was over $60 million, the last budget approval we had in June. That money goes to the general fund, and what's happening is that money is also going to fund charters and other things, border walls. And so that is a very serious problem. And I have to say that I'm really grateful that educators are paying attention, and I hope educators know that they are the ones that can help change the game for all of us in Texas.
Tell us, Tiffany, how can the teachers help change the game besides voting?
Well, right now they're in a position where I think voting is the primary thing. We've had so many educators leave the profession, and I cannot say that I blame them. As an educator, how much are we supposed to put our bodies on the line with COVID and now with monkeypox coming for such little money? Renee spoke earlier about how it's a little bit less expensive to live in Williamson County and in our area. And we're seeing a lot of gentrification in Austin, so people are being priced out of Austin. But our area is extremely expensive too. Our median housing cost is $500,000, I believe, last I checked. And so you have to know that if you're a single teacher or a single parent, there's no way you could live in our area. It's a lot. So, teachers are under a lot of pressure right now. I hope they remain steadfast, and I want to get them help so that they can just do the profession they love without scrutiny. And that's absolutely what's happening. They're teaching, they're doing their best. They're getting accused of CRT and of indoctrinating students and of grooming students. And that's horrifying. We need new leadership at all levels.
Right. We definitely do. Katie, I saw you in the inside the thing to come up. Did you want to come up and actually say something? If you do, you can click that link again and come up if you'd like. Because she's talking about the bait and switch. They bait and switched everyone. It was wild. Listen, there was a gentleman out in California that was running for mayor, and he's always been Republican, and he switched to Democrat, contacted Kim Kardashian and asked her to do an endorsement so that it would go on her millions and millions of followers. It was crap, and it really kind of disrupted things there. I haven't gone to see what the outcome has been yet. Oh, Katie says no. Okay. All right. So ladies, what else would you like for people to know about your campaign, and what's the burning issues that concern you? Renee, if you're going to be, I got a question for you. If you're dealing with juvenile, you got a lot of duties within that justice of the peace. And I don't know about you, but in our community, the juvenile issues are just really bad because we're dealing with so much gun violence. So would you be dealing with that type of thing, or would that go to the courts, or how would that work?
That would go to a different court. I don't deal with criminal issues. I only deal with traffic and truancy. The only engagement I would have with youth would be if a youth is pulled over for some kind of traffic violation, or if they were truant at school or something like that, and that would come before my court. Anything else would go to a different judicial court, and it would be more of a criminal or whatever kind of case for that. But yes, it is an array. It's like a smorgasbord of different cases that would come before me. And the only thing I would say is that what I would bring to this position that's different from my incumbent, as far as I know, she's a nice woman. I don't know. I mean, I've never met her. I haven't heard anything bad about her, and I'm not here to talk about her. I'm here to talk about what I can do differently. What I can do differently is that I have the experience of working with people who look like me. I have the experience of working with all kinds of folks because, I have a degree from Columbia University, so I grew up in New York City. My family roots are in the South in Florida. So I always say to people that I'm a city girl with a little bit of country, and a country girl with a sprinkle of city. I love all of that. And my grandfathers, both sides, my maternal and my paternal, were farmers. And so, and that's where I get my love of gardening. So, but I've had the experience. I've been outside of the country. And my incumbent is very limited. She's grown up in Georgetown. She was a police officer in Georgetown for 20 years, retired, became a justice of the peace. She works in real estate now, which my understanding is, I don't know how that's not a conflict of interest. If she still does, if she's doing eviction cases, I would think that would kind of be just a little bit, conflict of interest kind of right there. But she, and she's not, like I said, as far as I know, she's not an evil person, but she's problematic. And why I say that is because how she rules on cases, she rules on it from her own experience. Yes. And so justice of the peace has to work within state laws, but we do have a range where we can decide that if we're going to, do the most extreme or the least extreme, depending on the cases. Unfortunately for evictions, our hands are tied. We have to see if the property owner wants to work it out with the tenant. And if they don't, what I would put in place is I would put together a packet so that whoever if they can't work it out on their own, I give a packet to the tenant so that they can know what the resources are out there. So they're not on the street. You also don't want to keep people in the system any longer than you have to. So meaning you don't want to burden them with such a fine that they'll never get out the judicial system. You want them to understand whatever they're found guilty of or whatever they've done, that they should have to pay a price so that they understand, but you don't want them there forever. And unfortunately, in the JP court, we have cases where people are sitting there for a long period of time. And that's why I say she's problematic.
Are they sitting in there a long period of time due to evictions and what have you?
No, evictions are pretty quick. What they're sitting there for is the fines that might come along with the rulings on the case. So meaning if you get penalized and they're asking you to say you have to pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to the court that may be dispersed to whoever the plaintiff is, you can set it up where it will take them forever to pay it off, and they're constantly having to come back and make these payments. Or you could set something that's realistic where they don't fail but get them out a little bit quicker. Or you can do waivers. Mm-hmm. Now you have an option of doing fee waivers for some things, and so a lot of people who come before the JP don't know that that's an option. Right. Not that you want to publicize it all that much, but if you see a family that's really struggling and they're on hard times, why not give them the option to do fee waivers? Why not suggest that to the plaintiff to say, hey, we could do a fee waiver for them, and would you, whatever, work it out, but don't burden them to the point that they can't get out of the system, and that's what you don't want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think, what, listening to you, I was thinking in my head, the main issue is that representation matters. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Because if you have not walked in my shoes,
there you go.
If you have not dealt with multiple children and raised them or whatever, and been even possibly have yourself experienced poverty or have family members who've experienced it, you have no compassion or no
understanding
to deal with that and to deal with it equitably, as I know Tiffany is all about.
That's right.
So Tiffany, getting into the equity situation, you have an interesting situation where you've mixed your education with your love for racial equity and inclusion with your entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about the organization that you founded.
Absolutely. So when I was a teacher at Round Rock High School, I was attending some professional development in Austin ISD, and they had a strong culture of equity. And so I brought a lot of that back to my campus so that we could support each and every learner. And through that, and that was just an additional thing that I did, our district also established a district equity task force, which is no longer in play. But we were doing things like root cause analysis. We were looking at the disparities of students enrolling in advanced placement courses, students of color. Yes. And instead of just surmising why that may be a thing, we were working with students to determine what those barriers were to those advanced courses, which the things that students were sharing were things that I would have never come to the conclusion on. For example, they would say things like, well, I don't want to take an AP class because it's a scam. And I'm thinking, what do you mean it's a scam? And they would share that, if this was their first AP class, they felt that their teacher wasn't necessarily welcoming and wasn't willing to help them adjust at all in all instances, and just kind of had low expectations for them. And so they were having to work really hard, and they weren't feeling necessarily confident that they would pass this test that they had to pay for. And it was causing them to sacrifice for some other things that were important in their lives, like working, family, sports, and athletics. I also had a student that English was their second or third language. And they said, I know I'm learning English, but I'm really gifted in math, but people don't seem to think that I'm gifted in math because I don't have perfect English speaking skills. And so things like that were really illuminating. And I'm a big proponent of going to the source. The people that are closest to the problem typically have the solution of the problem. However, they least often have the power. And I think about that as a classroom educator sitting on this board, that, a lot of times my commentary, my addition, my advocacy is on behalf of educators, because educators are so central to the education experience. Yet we don't typically get to hear directly from them what they need to be supported, successful in their classrooms. So, those are just a couple of examples. I've always been a person with diverse interests, and a long time was told, well, you can't do everything. And it's not that I want to do everything, but I think that there is a way to fit all these pieces together for the good of our students.
Jaquetta Wilson asks, what do you feel is the most important issue in Wilco? Or does she mean Williamson County? I don't know. I bet you that's what she means. Williamson County.
WILCA stands for Williamson County. That's our friend,
County.
Jaquita.
Okay.
In Williamson County, I do think it's this burgeoning extremism. I think that it's perhaps been an undercurrent, but I think it's been given a lot of access and a lot of light. And I do not believe that this is our community. And so I think that that is one of the most important issues. This is going to sound a little interesting, but I think emergency preparedness, as we continue to face climate change. In 2021, we had a winter storm. As a school board member, I was calling our then interim superintendent and our mayor and saying, what's the plan for our elderly, our disabled? Are we opening our schools as warming centers? And people were woefully underprepared for that moment. We fared a little better during this tornado. But as we see more pandemics, we have the monkeypox outbreak. As we see more climate change incidences, we've hoped that this grid would hold, all summer, and we've had power outages and brownouts. We need to be prepared for this, and this is a local, state, and national issue.
Yes,
but as local electeds, Renee and I can do our best to make sure that our area is prepared and has access.
Yes, absolutely. I tell you, it's another thing that you guys have to think about. I was floored when you all had that horrific ice storm there in Texas, and to learn that all of that utilities were run by private entities and not by the government.
Right.
And whenever you have something that you're running for profit, that is to comfort and take care of the masses, it's too easy for corruption. It's like, oh, it's time to get this fixed. Oh, how much is that? Well, that won't calculate properly in our earnings portfolio or statement or whatever. Instead of, if it's within the governmental oversight, it just has to get done regardless. You just do it. And so I don't know how you guys, I pray that Beto gets in. I would love to get him on this show. I tell you, I'm ready to just, because it is so important. I don't know what your ballots look like, but I bet you, being in Texas, like everything else, everything is big in Texas, right?
Yes.
So it probably would take somebody a little bit of time to go down that whole list. But hey, if you vote blue and just go down the list, you should be able to do it. I don't know if you can you split? Is it possible for people to split a ballot in?
Yes. Yeah. Texas got rid of the, you could just check a box and just vote straight party ticket. They got rid of that a couple of years ago. I believe Tiffany can correct me on that. But it's been a couple of years now. And so you have to actually go and vote for every candidate. That was obviously done for a reason. But hey, nothing comes easy anymore. You have to work for it. So like I said, if you're going to take yourself out there and risk it for the biscuit, you might as well go and check every box.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so you have a comment here. Yes, we need to be ready, and we were not ready for that ice storm. No, you guys weren't, unfortunately.
And Tiffany, we weren't even ready for the heat that came recently either. Tell them about it. It was a whole other thing.
It is unbearable. I think we're like past our 50th summer day of 100+ degree temperatures. So schools go back. Schools open here in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we have students on buses, and it is hot outside.
Air conditioned?
They are air conditioned. It's just still so hot. I mean, even walking from the building to the bus, or even those educators doing bus duty, and principals, bless them. We really need someone in office, in higher office, that's going to address some of these things to the best of our ability. And I hate to be the bearer of coming bad news, but I'm deeply concerned about monkeypox and that impact on schools. I know how the virus is really being marketed, same thing with AIDS, saying that it's a gay male disease. That's not the truth. And so I'm deeply, deeply concerned about that. And I know that we need to be preparing, and we need leaders that are preparing for how we will handle yet another pandemic.
Tiffany, you're in my wheelhouse because I have been posting on, I had posted on IG just that very thing. I am fortunate that in my community, Durham is called the City of Medicine. Duke University is the preeminent medical facility here, and they're the largest employer in Durham, North Carolina. And the messaging that we're doing here is that monkeypox, with various people of different races, ages, religion, everything, it can affect all of us. Particularly, it is skin to skin contact. We're going to put a little information here right now. It's skin to skin contact. And Dr. Fauci and other professionals say that it can be transmitted. That's how they believe children got it, with linens and towels and sheets and all that type of thing. So we have to really be very conscientious about that. And really, even in handling money, there was a African-American woman that went on social media, and she worked in that population, and she was handling money. Remember, in the height of COVID, they talked about, really trying to do things cashless and whatnot. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And so when money is so dirty, it's so dirty. And she, you accidentally touch your face, you touch your eyes. We do that. And you have to really get into the habit of washing your hands, the hand sanitizer and all of that. Those things that we learned in COVID, we need to do that again. So that's my PSA about monkeypox. But really and truly, we have to absolutely do that. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Oh, people, let's see. Just wait until those kindergartners are together.
As the mother of triplets, I understand what Tiffany is saying. They
my
touch,
goodness,
put everything near their face, hands, and mouth. So that's why we have to really be diligent about this. That's correct.
Absolutely. I'm gonna try to. Let's see. Here it is. I got that. Here's something from Tiffany for all social media, because I put your other information in there already. I'll do this. Okay. So, ladies, is there anything that you would like to add for people to help you with your campaigns?
Well, absolutely. Tiffany and I both need funding because, as you know, Democrats don't raise as much money as Republicans typically, but definitely down ballot and being women of color, it's even harder and more difficult for us to raise funds. So we need people to understand that this just doesn't get done. We spend a lot of our personal time because I'm not getting paid to run.
Right.
I'm doing this because it's something I want to do, and it's a passion that I have and a commitment that I've made. So, but I still have to live as a single mom of triplets. I still got to live. And so we need funding to help us run our campaign. So we're not using our personal funding to get us through this campaign. I don't know about Tiffany, but I know I've spent my own personal money to do some things because my campaign just didn't have it. That funding is very important. Postcard writing, that's what I'm doing now. I'm banking postcards. I'm having people volunteer to do postcard writing, which is essential. I mean, I have to buy signs, and those are not cheap. I'm running this kickoff campaign. So, my campaign kickoff rather. So it's all about funding. It's all about people going to knock doors for us, to support us in whatever way they can, but something. I mean, we need help. I know that it's really difficult for us to get help because there are so many, higher offices that are running right now. So people want to put their backing behind Beto and, which is great, but the down ballot people are getting left out, and we need
I
help.
almost think that we need to get Beto to talk about the down ballot as he's running. No, I'm very serious.
Exactly.
Because strategically, see, here's the thing that I think that Democrats really forget, and we don't think about it enough, is that, for instance, in our state, if we didn't get more of the Democrats in to kind of thwart off what the Republicans are doing in the legislature, and then also have a Democratic governor, we would be in much, please, North Carolina, people in Georgia, in other words, wouldn't be able to come to North Carolina to have an abortion if they needed it.
Correct.
Needed medical care. Because for a while, of course, people were going to Georgia, and then they've cut it off. So now the closest state is North Carolina, because you can't go to South Carolina. We're really, I don't know what's happening in Virginia, but we're really kind of it right now. And, we lost the governor's race in Virginia to that guy that he was pretty slick in his communications. So we lost that. So North Carolina is standing alone among this in for the most part in the South. So we really have to pay attention. So you can't, as a governor, you got to have everybody. That means all of the people who are running down ballot. And for your mayor, is your mayor up for election too in your area? No. Okay. So you just need, we just all need that synergy in order to make change happen. We can't, all this fighting and what have you, it's nonpartisan as some of these elections are, allegedly. They're not anymore.
No,
Everything has become politicized. And even in our very blue area here, we had a slate of Republicans trying to weave their way in. And the key is that even if you let one in, one person can disrupt the whole voting flow of a committee or whatever, and really throw a monkey wrench and stuff. Tiffany?
We have 2 of 7 on our school board that are causing quite a challenge. So
2
of 7 that have caused a lot of disruption, a lot of pain, and many challenges. So what you're saying resonates with me, and it's really important for people to research these candidates, vote all the way down the ballot. Renee is absolutely correct. I think a lot of people don't realize or understand, in Texas, school board is not a paid position. So I literally quit my job as an educator when I got elected to run and be on our school board. That's how important it is and was to me. Seeing what was happening in our schools, like, that is what I was willing to do. So when we make asks for fundraising, we need that. I believe in paying people on a campaign. So I have a fully staffed campaign through November, which means I'm paying a lot of money. So I'm having to raise a lot of money, all while I'm active in my school board role. And so, people contributing to our campaigns, it's huge. It makes a difference. And people always say things like elect Black women, but you can't elect Black women if you don't support Black women with your contributions. And I've really had to tell some of my friends and family members, like, if you've got deep pockets, I really need to see your deep pockets for my campaign. I'm not talking $10, $20. Every bit helps. But, if you have big money, I need you to contribute big money to my campaign, because what I know is that these Texas school board races, there's 10 targeted school board races where these very, very far right QAnon, GOP organizations are contributing millions of dollars. And we cannot have that.
Millions.
Cannot have that. When we look at what happened in Southlake, that is not Round Rock ISD. That is not what people in this community want. And I think that sometimes people are asleep at the wheel because we have a strong school district. There's been lots of disruption. There's been lots of controversy, much of which was generated by some of these same people that are looking to harm our community. So we have to pay attention. We have to support. I have a strong volunteer network, so we will be doing postcards, lit drops, but we also need access to large media platforms. And so we need that financial support.
I understand. Well, my platform isn't that large, but the reason why I do it is that at least it's recorded. It's on YouTube. You can chop it up any way you want and use it to your benefit as an elected official, as a campaigning person. I think every little bit helps. Everything helps. I just do. And I know for a fact that it does. Let's see. Melissa says GOP money goes all the way to the top. Yeah. Well, that's a good idea, is to even ask our people like Beto, even as he's running his race and doing a great job from what I see from here, is to encourage vote blue all the way down the ballot. I think it's just a mantra that we just have to keep educating people of why it's so important. Right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, ladies, anything else special you'd like to add in these last few minutes and for the cause?
Pam, I just wanted to say thank you for having us on, and thank you for what you do with your show. I just recently found out about you, but I will be following you. We care a lot about state level and national politics, and that does make a difference in our lives when we're talking about our everyday, day-to-day lives. It's extremely important to pay attention to local politics. It's extremely important to see how local politics are intermingled and what that means for how we get to navigate these communities that we seek out to live in and raise children in and grow to love. So I hope everyone's paying attention, and I know that Renee and I would relish any support that we could gain from your programming, even if you are out of state. And I would encourage everyone, even if you're not in Williamson County, to please pay attention to your local electeds. Please work to support candidates of color. It's vitally important.
Well, let's say add this caveat: all skin folk aren't kin folks, so you make sure you check it out who they are.
And then I want to say, and my last thought too is, once again, also thank you, Pam. I really appreciate you reaching out to us to offer this opportunity. Tiffany, it's great seeing you again and hearing your beautiful message that you always put through and make sure that with clarity and passion. So I really appreciate that. I also want to mention that, I always tell people, be community forward thinking and community living forward. So what you want to do is you put your community first. When you're thinking about what you're doing, you think about that first. And if it's not going to benefit the community, then you might not want to do it. But if it's something that you can do to benefit the community, that's what you want to do, because that's where you're going to live at. My community is just not my children. It's not just my family. It's also my extended people that I have to live with every day. As you know, when our community suffers, we all do. We don't have to talk about the shooting in Texas. We don't, people suffering from mental illness and all of that. As a JP, I'll probably have to deal with cases with people having those kinds of issues. And we just need so much more for our community so that we don't have people coming before the Justice of the Peace Court. And as once again, you mentioned earlier that I used to work for CPS, but I was a family-based safety service person, which meant that I worked with families once they were already in the system. And my job was to help the families pull it together, get the services that they need so that they can get out of the system. So that's why for JP, my goal is to not keep someone in the judicial system any longer than they have to be. And if they don't have to be there, make sure they're not there, because that's community forward thinking.
Right. And your point of view, having that experience and training, is so important versus someone who does not. at all.
Correct.
Alicia Baker Rogers says, great hearing from you ladies. As you know, she is in the great state of Texas, and she is in Williamson County, guys. Jack sends a heart. Susan M. Cornfield, I happen to know that she is a law professor at the University of Michigan. And she says that you all are very strong candidates and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Katie sends a heart. Melissa sends a heart. Someone else sends a heart. And Katie says an amen. So, okay. Well, listen, next week I won't be doing the show because I am going to be in Vegas at the National Association of Black Journalists and National Association of Hispanic Journalists Conference, and hosting a forum on artificial intelligence.
Whoa.
Awesome. That's amazing.
I'm pretty excited, as you can tell.
I know you're going to share the link with us if you get a video of it or if it's broadcast.
I don't know how they plan on doing it. I know we're going to take pictures and all that good groovy stuff, but I hope to do a show on that because it's fascinating. It's something that I've actually been very leery about, and I have decided to lean in and learn more because my sorority sister founded Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. And when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, I need to learn more about that. Since she wasn't scared, I needed to lean into it. So I wrote up this panel and it won. So we're going to do it.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. You guys, I have enjoyed you so much. I've learned a lot. Oh, here's some more. Let's see. Amen and good luck to you all. And thank you both for your willingness to lead. Very good. Well, ladies, women do lead. We do. And I wish you all the very, very best. And anytime that I can help again or whatever. And like I said, with this video, just do whatever you need to do to have it benefit yourselves and your campaign. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
All right, see you later. All right. Thank you.
We're going to wave ourselves out. Okay. Good night, everyone.